I recently saw a list of albums that turned 25 years old in the year 2023. That list made me feel really old. That means all those albums came out in 1998 when I was either a sophomore or a junior in college. I remember these records so well. I can't believe they're 25 years old. I thought it would be fun to go through my collection, pull a handful of records out that again, I can't believe are 25 years old, but I still love listening to today. It's going to be a quick video. We're going to go through those really quick. But if you hang out until the end, I'm going to tell you about one iconic independent record that came out in 1998 that I don't own at all and never listened to. So be sure to stick around for that. Okay, album number one came out in 1998. That actually surprised me. It was 25 years old. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I remember when this album came out, it was everywhere. Lauryn Hill basically said to the guys in Fugazi here, hold my beer, I'm going to make this excellent record, I'm going to win all the Grammys, sell all the copies, it's going to be so good, I'm only ever going to have to record one album and release it. That's how great this record is. Up next, Pearl Jam's Yield. I'm going to be honest with you, I hated this album when it came out. I hated No Code when it came out. I loved the first three Pearl Jam albums, and by the time these came out, I don't know, I was listening to different genres, and these just didn't work for me. But after all these years, these albums have actually become some of my favorites, Yield being one of them. Faithful, Given the Fly, Wish List, kind of cheesy, but still a jammer. Low Light, again, Push Me, Pull Me. Like I said, first came out, didn't dig it. But honestly, almost every Pearl Jam album, I don't like it until like 2 or 3 years later. Like the new one that came out during the pandemic, I'll probably just now get around to listening to it and actually see if I like it or not. But Yield, 25 years old. All right, 1998 was a good year for bummer jams. And doesn't get much more bummer than Pedro the Lion's It's Hard to Find a Friend. That's kind of rude. I could have called it emo, I guess, but whatever. All right, so here's the thing with this record. Love it. It's got a stripped down acoustic sound. Like you can hear him in a rocking chair, basically. I guess it's a rocking chair. I don't know. He's moving around on a stool or a chair while recording it. It's that detailed. It's that great. The song that I think is the best Pedro the Lion song ever, which people will disagree with me on, is Big Trucks. I just think that's a great song. The Longest Winter is a great one. What else? When They Really Get to Know You, They Will Run is a lot of fun. It's, like I said, it's kind of a bummer album, but it also has these hidden little like acoustic pop gems on there that I absolutely love. He's going out on tour this year to support the 25th anniversary of this album, and I'll most likely be there. All right, let's stick with the emotional side of 1998. And a lot of people like to say that Sunny Day Real Estate was one of the first emo bands. Whatever, I don't know. I don't have time for those kind of arguments. But in 1998, they released this record, How It Feels to Be Something On. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is my favorite Sunny Day Real Estate album. I guess the number 2 album, the pink one, the pink album cover, probably comes in a close second. But I just love the songs on this record. I play it all the time, and I've never put it away. And very excited to still have this one in my collection. Okay, let's talk a little more hip hop. In 1998, Mos Def and Talib Kweli released Black Star. This is arguably one of the best hip hop records of all time, definitely from a collab standpoint, with two great hip hop artists coming together and forming a group. I actually found this album in a box of records at a garage sale many years ago, and very excited to have an OG copy of this record. But songs like Definition, Redefinition, Children's Story, the list goes on and on. I was a little bummed that their new album they released was sort of on a subscriber-only podcast, so I've never really had the opportunity to spend much time listening to it and kind of determine how it sounds in relation to this one. But I always go back to this record when I want to hear some classic hip-hop. All right, let's get a little angsty. Take a trip to Washington, D.C. to celebrate Fugazi's End Hits, also 25 years old. I love this album. Place Position, 5 Corporations is such a great song. It even has Pink Frosty on it, which is a great one. I actually saw them in 1999, so probably saw them touring this record while I was interning in Los Angeles, and it was a great concert. Unfortunately, it was the only time I was ever to see them play. I so wish these guys were still making records and touring, but I get it. End Hits, great Fugazi record. All right, we're moving. We're flying through these. I'm trying not to take too much of your time. This record I could talk about forever, the band even, but Rocket from the Crypt's RFTC. Now, I actually was like, I had looked up an online list about records that came out that were 25 years old. This was not on there. But as I was going through my collection to pull records, this one, I was like, I think this came out in 1998. And it did. This, to me, feels like their major label, Hail Mary. I believe it came out on Interscope Records. And this would have come after Scream, Dracula Scream, which is another great record. I think that came out in 96 when I was a freshman in college. Yeah. My wife and I actually had the chance to see them perform at the Roxy, probably not long after this album came out. And the openers were Locust, if you remember that band, and Blackheart Procession, which the drummer wore like a fake horse head the whole show, which was kind of amazing. So many great songs on this record. Like I said, I felt like it was sort of a Hail Mary. They were going for it. Why this band never blew up, I'll never understand. This was their best shot at it. Didn't quite make it, but will always be one of my favorite bands. Okay, let's get a little like post-indie rock jazz. Didn't really make sense to me until I was in my 40s, and that's Tortoise's TNT. I'm going to be honest with you. When these albums were out in the 90s, I tried so hard to get into them and just could not. I think I needed things a little bit louder, a little angrier, a little faster. But now that I'm in my 40s, I absolutely love all of Tortoise's catalog. I buy everything Jeff Parker from Tortoise releases. TNT is like a classic album. You can't argue with this one. But like I said, if you're kind of younger and Tortoise is just not doing it for you, it's kind of like what I tell people about Bruce Springsteen. It's like Bruce makes the most sense in your 30s, not in your 20s. I guess Tortoise, for me, 40s, not my 20s or 30s. Okay, I've talked about this band many times in separate videos on my channel, but Hum's Downward is Heavenward came out in 1998. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and I've mentioned this in a video before, but I saw Hum perform at Exit Inn here in Nashville, kind of a small club, and it was, I guess, probably before this album came out, because this would have been 96, maybe 97. And it was the loudest show I've ever been to. Okay, actually the loudest show I ever saw was Shellac at a club that was even smaller, and my ears rang for 2 days after that. But Hum, this show was amazing. It was just this wave of guitar and feedback and sound that just came at you the entire show. Funny thing about this show was it was sponsored by a local radio station that did not really play Hum at all. And the opening band was Fuel, if you remember that band. Not one of my favorites, but there was a huge like industry crowd out to see Fuel. And I remember the drummer like walking out from backstage with like two like ladies on his both arms, like just strutting his stuff, which kind of was the total antithesis of what a Hum concert would be like. But hey, I'm sure they had to play it in the hopes of getting some of these songs on the air. I'm not sure it ever did. This album never really took off commercially, but it's one of my favorites. It's got so many great songs on it, and I played this all the time. Okay, I've only got one more album that I'm going to show you. Oftentimes I make these videos and I think they're like, oh, that's like probably a 10-minute video. And then I go to edit and it's like 20, 22 minutes. Like, Lord have mercy, that's too long. So did my best today to keep things short, sweet, to the point, and try to keep this at a, you know, a time that people want to watch, right? So I have many more albums that came out in 1998. When I was in college, I bought so many, mostly CDs at that time, but a few records here and there. And it was such a great time for me in my musical journey. I was, like I said, either a sophomore or junior, depending on what time, at Belmont University. I was in the music business program there. I was trying to study to learn how to start my own record label, which I eventually did, and maybe I'll talk about that one day here. But it was just such a great time for music, and one of the albums that stands out the most for me that came out that year was Beastie Boys' Hello Nasty. Now, there's one thing in particular about this actual physical vinyl LP that always brings back memories for me, and that is I interned in Los Angeles in first semester of 1999, and I was able to land an internship at Capitol Records, you know, like the big circular building there in Los Angeles. I worked in the radio promotions department, and near the end of the semester, the whole time I had been eyeing, there was a guy there who did the like record DJs, like he sent out DJs, or he sent out records to DJs to spin. And there was just all these records, and I had my eye on them the whole time, and I'm like, I would love to have the opportunity to get to take those home. So after a long semester of doing a lot of dirty work as an intern, they finally gave me the opportunity to take some records home. This was one of them. I actually got this one, Check Your Head, which is my favorite Beastie Boys album, and a few other remix singles and things of that nature. I don't know. We could go on and on about the Beastie Boys. It's so sad that we'll never get another Beastie Boys album, but lots of great jams on this one. And I was even able to, like, I think I have a 12-inch single of Body Movin' with some remixes, but, you know, great record. I'm totally surprised this is this is 25 years old. I guess I'm actually really more surprised that it's been 25 years since I did that internship. But give me a second. I'm going to tell you about an album that came out in 1998 that I just never listened to, and it's an iconic independent release. Okay, I promised you at the beginning that I would tell you about an iconic album that was released in 1998 that is sort of an independent gem that everyone references that I never listened to. Ready? I mean, I don't even have a copy of it to show you because I never bought it. Okay? Neutral Milk Hotels in the Airplane Over the Sea. Yeah, I had to look at my notes because I always mispronounce the album title. Not mispronounce it, but I always jumble the words up there. I know what you're saying. I'm a total poser because I don't love this record. It's sort of like if there's a playbook for independent rock music, like that's maybe chapter 1 or chapter 2 of albums that people listen to and love. But I'll be honest with you, the album never connected with me. I'm not sure what it is. I've tried so many years. There's a ton of bands that I have this issue with that I try really hard to listen to, and I just can't get behind them. It doesn't mean they're bad. I'm actually excited that people really enjoy listening to them. Another great example for me, Death Cab for Cutie. Just can't figure it out. Never really got into them. Arcade Fire? Okay, I'll stop there. But Neutral Milk Hotel, like I said, people always reference it as like, you know, just the best independent, one of the best independent albums of all time. And maybe it is for you, and if so, that's awesome. But for me, I was never able to connect with that album. Don't own a copy. I thought it'd be fun to mention like sort of a random album that is so well known that just never made it into my collection, but that's also 25 years old. Well, like I said earlier, there's plenty other albums in my collection that I could have pulled out, but wanted to keep the video within a reasonable length because I bought a ton of stuff in the 90s, and I probably could have made an hour-long video showing you all of the releases that are 25 years old. I can't believe these records are 25 years old. 1998. Gosh, that means I've been out of college for 23 years? Oh, okay. All right, maybe we'll make another video about how I feel about that later on. But I enjoyed going through these records today. I'm sure there's a lot of great albums that you love from 1998. Please leave me a comment below. Tell me which ones that I overlooked today, or maybe not even overlooked, but which ones from 1998 are your favorites in your collection. I would love to hear more about those. I'm sure I have them as well, and would love to reply back with a comment about that as well. Now, this isn't the first album that I've made from my record collection. In fact, I talked about some of my favorite releases that came out in 2022. If you're interested in seeing some of the albums that you may have overlooked last year that were my personal favorite, you can do so by watching that video here.